Had a little bit of audio issues there. So let's get back into it. Excuse me. Going back. All right, we are back. Sorry about that. Had some audio issues there. Sounded like a robot. So listen, the Chiefs played last night, and there's a lot to take away from that game. First and foremost, excuse me, the idea that the Chiefs, I think, are back to being who they were, I think is a little premature. But the cool thing about sports is we'll figure this out. Am I overly impressed? Like, two things can be true. Let me start here. Let me not just start with hate, even though I don't like the Chiefs. Let me not start with hate. Let me be actually fair to the Kansas City Chiefs. Which the first thing is first. Should the Chiefs receive the biggest benefit of the doubt in terms of if you have been great for a sustained period of time, should that go into how we view you the next season? Yes, 1,000%. If you have been the best team in football for a prolonged period of time, you should have the biggest benefit of the doubt. The Chiefs 1,000% unequivocally deserve that. No one's questioning that, right? We all pretty much agree. Um, the idea of, you know, the teams that we're going to give the most slack to are going to be the teams that have been great. That also, though, does not mean if you are great when the fall off happens, we just never acknowledge the fall off. Oh, because you were great for such a sustained period of time. Because everybody at some point does fall off or gets worse than what they were. I also don't believe that just because you beat bad teams, the Raiders, the Commanders without Jaden Daniels, that means I should also elevate you to, oh yeah, you're clearly back in just unequivocal great status. No one can beat you. You're the best team in the NFL. I know they've been the trendy pick. I think they have been elevated a little too quickly. Should they have the benefit of the doubt? Yes. Which is why I never came on here when they were 0-2 or 1-2 and said, "Oh yeah, they are clearly no longer good. They're clearly no longer one of the best teams in the AFC." They're still the Chiefs. They're still Patrick Mahomes, still Andy Reid. The things that I think are still going to be a struggle for this team are Chris Jones and Travis Kelsey, who are not the players they once were. That's going to impact the dynasty. There's just no way around it. Them not being the one of the 2 to 3 greatest tight ends ever, one of the best interior linemen of his generation, those guys not playing at the level they once did is just going to hurt this team, and you're going to see it. And this is what's cool about sports. It all works itself out. You got guys like me and a bunch of guys in media who will come out here and they'll talk about it and they'll tell you what they like or don't like about a certain team. But the beauty of this is we're going to see it. And the clash of what has been the clash of titans in the AFC, Chiefs, Bills, we're going to get it this week. And when we do, we will see just how far removed either. So both these teams have been subject to a fair amount of criticism. Buffalo people are like, they're not as good as they were. The defense obviously is no longer great, and they've been getting shit on. Now they did just come off a 40-9 win against Carolina, which 49 on the road is impressive because Carolina has been actually a pretty good home team. And the Chiefs coming off a dominant win versus the Raiders and a very dominant win against the Commanders. But again, neither of those being great teams. And the Panthers, again, while they've been better at home, no one would call them a great team. So now we get to see where these two teams are heading into next week and who should be feared, because we've had a changing of the guard in the AFC and really a changing of guard in the NFL. If you look at the division leaders right now, I don't think anybody would have had the division leaders at week 8 of the NFL season being the Colts, the Broncos, the Patriots, and the Steelers. That was on no one's bingo card. But that's the problem with the changing of the guard. No one sees it coming, and we're all usually late to the picture. The same way when the guard changed from New England, Denver, Pittsburgh to this current iteration, and that's the Brady years, end of Manning, end of Ben Roethlisberger, when it changed from them to the what we've been accustomed to, the Ravens with Lamar, the Bills with Josh Allen, the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes. We're all usually a little late to that storyline because we have to see it play out in front of our eyes. Like, oh, you can't just surpass Brady. You got to beat Brady, which no one did. You can't just surpass Peyton and the Broncos. You got to beat them. Peyton retired. The Broncos fell apart. And the Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger retired, and the Steelers didn't have a quarterback for, well, depending on how you feel about Aaron Rodgers, maybe until now. So we're going to get to see how good / great these two teams are heading into this next week. And it's going to be it's going to be probably the game of the weekend, in all honesty. Moving on to what is always a favorite of mine. Why would he say that? And sometimes why would he say that? I want to make sure I want to be positive sometimes. So it's not always just negatively why would he say that or criticizing why would he say that. Sometimes I think a guy makes a great point and I think it should just be highlighted. So Greg Olsen, first off, everybody knows, at least, and I have yet to see someone really push back on this, the new kickoff rules suck. The new kickoff rules suck, and they suck in a way that's going to be really heartbreaking for somebody, because someone is going to go into a playoff game, tie it up, have some big dramatic drive, then kick the ball. Other teams are going to on 35, and it's going to be 1, maybe 2 completions, and they're going to have a game-winning field goal. Kickers are hitting field goals from 50 to 60 yards with consistency like we've never seen before. And starting the ball to 35, it's just, you only got to get 20 yards, 25 yards to have your kicker in range. And Lord forbid, if the Cowboys find a way to get into the playoffs, you only really need like 5 yards, because Brandon Aubrey might really kick a 70-yarder. So the new kickoff rules suck. With that, Greg Olsen had a really great point, which is you're going to see offensive philosophies change, and I think they already started to. So teams are more aggressive on 4th down now. That's just a fact. Teams are far more aggressive now. Not everybody's the Lions, where it feels like they just refuse to punt unless you have them in like 4th and 39. But everybody is being more aggressive on 4th down, even if you don't have a great offense or a great quarterback. And Greg brings up the point that that's almost necessitated now, not just because you're playing against a team maybe you feel like you have to get an edge on, like if you're swinging up in competition, like we've seen that where, historically on the road you go for 2 because you're in there, you're just trying to get out of there with a win. Or if you're playing a Chiefs or a Bills or a Ravens and you're like, man, I really don't know if we're going to stop them, so we got to go for it on 4th down. The teams are now being just far more aggressive. And because if you have the ball, especially in the red zone, the only realistic way to sometimes stop some of these offenses is you have to give yourself a handful of plays to stop them from getting any kind of points. Like if you want to truly shut them down from getting a field goal or a kick, because again, if you kick them the ball, like if you accept a field goal when you're in the red zone, like your offense is driving and then you accept the field goal and then you kick the ball to the other team, you get your field goal, you kick it to the other team, they start at the 35-yard line. There, it's really easier than to match your 3. And so it kind of takes away from what you just did as an offense. There's no longer this, okay, well, at least we got 3 points. And now they at least have to drive the ball some amount of time and have to get, 40, 50 yards before they can also get 3 points. So I would rather, and he brings this up, and if it was the article of the interview, I apologize. I saw it in article style, but I don't know if Greg originally said this in an interview. We said, I would rather just start my team, go for it. If I make it, awesome, I get the touchdown. If I don't make it, then I at least force them to go 85, 90 yards, or I'm forcing them to at least go now in terms of getting a field goal, 50, 60 yards. Like I'm resetting what used to be the stance for a field goal. I am resetting and redetermining field position because as the game changes and as the game adapts, those are the people that are ahead of that curve, the people that realize, oh, this is actually more beneficial. They're the ones that can be able to take advantage of this. Because the reality, and again, these kickoff rules, they just stink. I'm really hoping Roger Goodell and the owners, if we're gonna vote to ban the tush push, can we also change the kickoff rules back? Because nobody likes these. Literally, not a single human being on planet Earth likes these. So I thought this was a really brilliant take from Greg. And Greg is one of those guys. I know Greg felt slighted because obviously when Fox hired Tom Brady got what was Greg Olson's slot. But Greg is great at what he does, breaking down film, understanding the game of football. Like, apologies, Greg. You're not Tom. And so, yes, Tom Brady is going to get the spot on the 18 broadcast. He's Tom Brady. But this I thought was a really, really good point. And I wanted to bring that up and I wanted to highlight that again. Why would he say that is not always negative? Or at least doesn't have to always be negative. This was truly just a really good point to establish, hey, as the kickoff rules change, and whether you can love them, you can hate them, but the reality is the smart coaches, the smart teams, they're going to adapt and use them in a way that's beneficial to them. And so, yeah, why force a team to go 40, 50 yards to get a field goal instead of just allowing them to go 20 yards to get a field goal? And like I said, someone's going to win a playoff game, and knowing the way that reality works, because it can be cruel, the Chiefs are going to beat the Bills in the playoffs on a game-winning field goal after Mahomes gets like a completion to Travis Kelce. Like it's just going to be some sick way of it happening. Now, if it does happen to the Bills, the good news is they'll change the rules. So yeah, why would you say that? Moving on to the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 6-2 now, heading into their bye week. And I don't think the Eagles are a perfect team, obviously, but I think we have all over exaggerated the quote unquote downfall of the Eagles. Because at the end of the day, you can say, they're not dominating as hard as they were at the end of last year. True. They're also not as motivated. When they were dominating teams, and why that playoff run was so impressive, well, they were dominating teams in the playoffs, where you have the ultimate motivation. Keep playing or your season's over. So as they came into the regular season, and they're not really looking at the Cowboys as a legitimate rival. They're not looking at the Giants as a legitimate rival. They're not looking at these other teams as, oh, they can actually compete with us. They're like, eh. And when it comes down to it, the talent that the Philadelphia Eagles have, there's like 2 or 3 rosters that can compete. Genuinely. The Lions have a great roster, especially on offense. The Broncos have a great roster. The Niners, if they weren't so injured, you could argue still had a great roster. Obviously, they've had too many injuries to still be in that conversation. The Ravens had a bunch of injuries. Otherwise, I would say they're in that conversation. And that's about it. Those are about the only teams that could really say their roster could go toe-to-toe with the Eagles. And despite their quote-unquote struggles, again, they're 6-2. They're heading into the bye. Now, Jalen Hurts, I don't buy this MVP argument for him, that because his numbers look a certain way. About to sneeze. Bless you. Bless me. I don't buy that just because his numbers look a certain way, he is now suddenly in the MVP conversation. I'm not a numbers only guy. You know, you got to see the ebb and flow of the season. To me, if you were to vote MVP, I still think it's Baker Mayfield. I think Drake May does deserve some votes, but I would like to see him beat better competition first. Um, and so, but I would still give it to Baker if we're talking MVP. I know Jalen's stats right now look really good, but if you actually watch those games, I just don't believe you can look at them and go, oh, yeah, that's the MVP of the National Football League. But you still have an offensive line that, well, not as dominant as it was last year, still one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. You still have, because of quarterback situation, probably the best set of receivers in the NFL. I would probably go Chase Higgins, but Joe Flacco's throwing the ball, and Joe Flacco just forgets T. Higgins exists, and he is just going to give Jamar Chase is going to set the record for targets if Joe Flacco keeps playing. You still have Jalen Carter, that defense. Like, there is talent-wise, there are still not a lot of people and a lot of teams that can hold a candle to the Eagles. So you right the ship. You're 6-2. You're heading into your bye week. Everything is going their way. And so the same way, and I didn't write doom letters. I don't like the Chiefs. I didn't write doom letters about the Chiefs when they were 0-2. I didn't write doom letters about the Chiefs when they were 1-2. And I think the Eagles, when they went to 4-2 and they had lost the back-to-back games to the Giants and Broncos, I think we tried to write their obituary a little too soon. That is still a really talented team, a really talented defense, offensive line, receivers, Saquon at running back, who Saquon had 150 yards and did not have that many carries. So for the people that are worried about, um, you know, what they're going to do, I don't know, man. Let's not kill the Eagles or write the Eagles off quite yet. That's all I'm saying. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily. And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody for tuning in today. Don't forget, HardFoul Radio sponsored by Dubby. Go get you some Dubby, man. Best energy drink I've ever had. Doesn't give you the crash outs. Someone who is a obsessive coffee drinker, probably drinking 5 to 6 cups of coffee a day. It has genuinely cut my coffee intake in half. Uh, Good natural energy. Natural might be a stretch, but Dubby's great. Appreciate W. Use Hardfell 10 at checkout for 10% off when you go get your own. So, excuse me. The what's the best way to phrase this? NBA, good luck. I don't know what we have to do with the NBA as far as Victor Wembanyama. SGA, I hope you enjoyed your title. Jokic, you're great, an all-time player. Enjoy your title. Giannis, one of my favorite players ever. I am glad you got a ring. Because it might be over for everybody. I don't know how you're supposed to handle the emergence of Victor Wembanyama. We've never had, like, Victor he feels fake, right? We've never had the guy, like LeBron was fake. LeBron was a 6'9", 260-pound freight train that could pass, has become a better shooter. That's fake. This is even faker. if that's a way to phrase it. Like, this is an even faker version of an athlete, of a basketball player. It's insane. What Victor Wembanyama is doing at 7'4", he is not just all the superlatives. He is an unguardable, there's not words. Every single game, and this is gonna be great for the NBA ratings, by the way, because he is must-watch TV for a regular season game. And 4 games in, he has had a sequence in every single game that I don't think we've ever seen before. Like the block on one end into a step back 3, again for a 7'4" human being. The 5 to 6 blocks that he had, the New Orleans night where he blocked 9 shots, he had the consecutive, and then he goes around and does a turnaround dunk. The last night where he is dribbling through traffic, going between his legs, crossing over. Like, bro, what are we gonna do? The best thing I heard about Victor was, if you made Victor Wembanyama on 2K, you just put in 7'4" demigod, shoots threes, best defensive player. Like we would call it childish, right? Like if you made Victor Wembanyama on 2K, we would call it childish because it's, you just need him to do everything. He's got to be the tallest, the strongest, shoot threes, everything. Because we've always known that, like, in any sport, any athlete, there's always some drawback. Like if you are great at this, you're normally terrible at this, even for the all-time greats. Like there's a reason why Tom Brady's not athletic. Because if Tom Brady was athletic, he's the greatest athlete in the history of ever. It's truly what makes somebody like Lamar Jackson so special is like when Lamar is on accuracy-wise, he feels impossible to deal with because he's the fastest guy in the field. He's the best thrower on the field. These last 2 years of his MVP level play, not this year because he's been hurt, but like the last 2 years prior, it's why he's been so incredible. It's because, he could just do everything. And Victor Wembanyama can just do everything. He could shoot. He could score inside. He's got strength. He now has post moves. Thanks, Hakeem. I don't know. The Spurs are 4-0, and I don't think the Spurs are that good. Like, the Spurs are clearly a good basketball team. I don't know if the Spurs are 4-0 or contender status yet, but they absolutely are going to be if they have this guy playing like this. If this is who Victor Wembanyama is now, like, good luck the rest of the NBA. Good luck. Like, we got no chance. We're all screwed. The meteors are coming. We're all the dinosaurs, and the meteors are here. He's just incredible, and we're gonna run out of superlatives. But like I said last week, he is good for the NBA because even though he's international, he looks like a domestic star. If you just ask someone who's the best basketball player in the world, it's real easy when it's like, oh, it's Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan looks like the best basketball player in the world. Oh, it's Shaquille O'Neal. He looks like the best player. LeBron, Kobe. Some of these guys just look like, oh yeah, of course they're the best basketball player in the world. And with Victor's dribbling between his legs, shooting step back threes, dunking on people, blocking everyone. It's like, oh yeah, who's the best basketball player in the world? It's the 7'4" alien who's dominating. Of course it is. So again, SGA, glad you got a title, bro. Giannis, I'm glad you got a title, man. Jokic, glad you got a title. Because good luck trying to get one later. Because it is Team Tuesday, we also have to talk about my bum ass basketball team. It's unfortunate. What's new about the New Orleans Pelicans? Jeremiah Fears, promising rookies, played really well the first couple of games. That tracks. Trey Murphy, Jose Alvarado, Herbert Jones over the last couple of years. They've had promising rookies, promising young players. Zion misses another game last night due to rest / continuing body issues. What's new? Oh, and they get blown up by the Celtics, who were previously 0-3. What's new? Here's the problem. Because New Orleans, I gave up on the season before it started, and Tony and Will were kind of laughing at me because they know I'm a delusional sports fan, and I love my Pelicans. I don't want to let me be clear here. I love my Pelicans. I love all the teams that I root for. I am irrational. This is the most because I became an Alabama fan due to family. This is about the most logical team that I root for. Shout out to them for being top 4 in the country, top 3 now, right? Yeah, and so I love all the teams I root for, and that's why this is so unfortunate. I really liked the Willie Green hire at the time. I think Stan Van Gundy, who was the previous coach, clearly was an odd fit with Zion. Older guy, probably a little too rigid for this era of NBA superstar. I thought you needed a change, and so I was really glad when they brought in Willie Green. The reality is, though, the Willie Green time in New Orleans has not worked out. You could say that's because of injuries. Zion and B.I. didn't play enough games. Fine. You could say it's because I really don't care what you say. The Willie Green era in New Orleans needs to come to an end. And I thought it was franchise malpractice when Taylor Jenkins, who was fired by the Grizzlies, and Michael Malone, who was let go by the Denver Nuggets, both just unequivocally better coaches, more established, more accomplished coaches than Willie Green, how you did not bring them in and start the season with them, I just think was franchise malpractice. Can you fix it? Yeah. You fire Willie, you bring in Michael Malone now, and what I thought was maybe a little too strict or old school at the time, I think we need to have some going back to that. An old school guy with results, with relatively recent results. Stan Van Gundy was a weird hire because a lot of his results were tied to Dwight Howard, and that was a decade ago. And so it was like, let's see. Michael Malone is an established head coach. He's a champion. He's a winner. He knows how to build a culture, a program. And I just don't think these guys, realistic. I think the players are showing you they just kind of tune Willie out. He's just there. He says the right things, but the reality is last season was a disaster. Injuries or not. This season is heading towards disaster. Injuries or not. Herb Jones is out there yelling at guys because they're not getting back on defense. Willie Green, it's unfortunate. I loved the Willie Green hire at the time, but he's just not the guy, unfortunately. So until the Pelicans have a new head coach, I think the Pelicans still have good talent. I think Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Zion, obviously, Messi, even though he got hurt. Jeremiah Fears, I like Derek Queen. Like there's a handful of guys on this roster that clearly can play. I just don't think they have the right coach. And so until they hire the right coach, it's going to be a really tough sledding for New Orleans. Top of the next hour, get good, get great, get out, our Week 8 NFL Power Rankings. We'll be back momentarily. And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. Excuse me. It is Tuesday, so we got to get into power rankings. Before we get into that, keep in mind when we're doing Get Good, Get Great, Get Out, it is not just the standings where we go, okay, these teams have the best record. It's not just the who I personally like. I genuinely try to get a feel. I listen to a bunch of insiders because I think insiders have better perspectives on their teams, especially because a lot of insiders, I think one of the, I want to give a shout out to Andrew Mason. A lot of insiders, he's a Bronco insider, but he's a fan of Atlanta sports teams. So he's a Braves fan, he's a Falcons fan, or I'm sorry, not, he's a fan of the Braves and a fan of the Buccaneers. I want to make sure I got that correctly. So he is watching Denver through the eyes of, I watch this team all the time. I cover this team, but he's like, I specifically won't cover a team I'm a fan of. And there's a lot more people like that. I think he has an appreciation for the Broncos and he just loves the sport of football. And so when he sees the Broncos do well, he kind of gets excited because he follows his team so much. He's very close to the team. But he does have truly like a lot of insiders. You can get some really good opinions. So I try my best week after week to go through and see, okay, what's working, what's not, who is truly like, how are we evaluating these teams across all levels of talent, across all people's different perspectives? Because obviously I could just throw Denver up at the best every week. And in the past, when I've thought the season was going well for Denver or the season would be good for Denver, I have had them rank high in early season power rankings, but I have always rationalized myself by the time we get to, okay, are they good or are they not? Like when they had Russell Wilson, I thought, oh, this is one of the best teams in the NFL. They were terrible. And I reflected as such when I did my early power rankings. So with that being said, this is, oh, nope, sorry, we went the wrong way. Here we go. So, which we blanked the wrong ones. Why is this not doing it? Oh. Sorry, 1 second here. We are having all kinds of issues today. Apologize. So with that, we have Get Good, Get Great, Get Out for week 8 of the NFL for our power rankings. You know the rules. Get lost. You're just one of the worst teams in the NFL. Get out. I just don't think you're a playoff team. Maybe you're not terrible. Maybe you're rebuilding. Get good means I think you have a chance to make the playoffs. Great. I think you're a lock for the playoffs. And excellent. You're one of the best teams in the NFL. Pretty simple. Let's start with get lost. These are the worst teams in the NFL. Look, let's go left to right. The Cleveland Browns, Myles Garrett just had a 5-sack game, and he's throwing his helmet on the sideline because they're still down by double digits. I don't feel bad for Myles Garrett, and I don't think a lot of people do, because Myles knew what he got into when he signed that contract. I'm going to be one of the best players, maybe the best player in the NFL. I mean, is Myles Garrett the best player in the NFL? There's an argument for it, but he's on a really bad team that I truly think has no chance. I wish they would play Shedeur. Dylan Gabriel's not the answer. I don't know if Shedeur is also going to be the answer with this team, but it's rough in Cleveland, man. Miami, congrats on the win. I still don't have a lot of faith in this team. I think they are going to play desperate here for another week. I think they will compete with the Ravens if Lamar is back for about a half. And then I think you're going to see the Dolphins retreat back to coaching issues, not believing in the quarterback. A lot of, they're not terrible, but they've lost momentum. They've lost the belief in their coach. I know reports came out this week that they haven't lost faith in the locker room, or Mike McDaniels hasn't lost locker room. I don't personally believe that. The Cardinals, speaking of coaches out the locker room, I think Jonathan Gannon has lost it. Some of this, I think, was with how Marvin Harrison Jr. has played. Kyler is now weirdly got dinged up, but now is going to miss almost a month worth of time. There's a lot about Arizona I don't like. I like the Jonathan Gannon hire initially. I don't think it has panned out the way they wanted, obviously. The Saints, this is just talent, lack of talent. I think the Saints are competing. I think Kellen Moore is actually doing a pretty good job as far as can you show me progress? They just don't have enough talent. Titans, this is another one. Fired their head coach. We're gonna see what they do with coaching. Cam Ward I like Cam Ward. I've thought highly of Cam Ward, but realistically right now, Cam Ward is lucky that he was not a very discussed or highly talked about number 1 overall pick, and that is kind of working to his favor right now. The Bengals, Joe Flacco is funny. I think Joe Flacco targeting Jamar Chase double-digit times a game it's a very Tony game plan, but I don't think it's good enough to get them out of get lost. I think without Burrow, this team has no chance. The Jets, congrats, you got your first win. That's about all I can say nice about the Jets. The Raiders, everybody seems to believe in the Raiders every offseason. I don't get it, but maybe that's hate. Get out. Again, these are teams that I just don't think have a chance to make the playoffs right now. The Falcons, you just can't trust them. The Falcons are going to have moments where they look good. They have 30-0 teams. They beat the Bills. Sorry, they got 30-0. Then they beat the Bills, and they looked terrible this last weekend. This is just they're way too up and down, way too inconsistent. I can't reliably get behind the Atlanta Falcons. The Carolina Panthers, good home team. I think, again, Brian Canales, Bryce Young. I don't think Bryce is going to be the guy long term. I do really like Canales. They have started to make the turn from they were terrible to where they were decent, and now they are legitimately a good home team. I know they just got smacked by the Bills, but the Bills are in a different weight class. I don't think Bryce is the guy. I do think Canales is the guy. Still not a playoff team. The Jaguars just don't take seriously. Trevor Lawrence, it's like, what are we doing, man? I just don't take this team seriously. I'm sorry. Brian Thomas Jr., they're supposedly shopping, which is nuts to me. This just doesn't feel like not to pull a Colin Coward, but this just doesn't feel like a serious franchise. Yeah, not a playoff team. Giants are fun. Dart, Scadaboo. Unfortunately, Scadaboo's out for the year now. Obviously had the horrible ankle injury. Dart is the guy. He feels like he's the guy. I feel like they finally have a quarterback, but that is for the future, not for the present. Not a playoff team. The Cowboys just got smacked by the Broncos. That defense is horrible. Those receivers are great. The tight end's obviously really good. Dak's playing as well as he has. But this is just a worse version of the Bengals last year, and the Bengals didn't make the playoffs. So I can't consider the Cowboys a playoff team when I think they are a lesser version of the Bengals from last year. The Texans, I still really like CJ Stroud despite all the struggles. I still really like D'Amico Ryans despite all the struggles. I think we're going to have a really ugly game on Sunday. They play the Broncos. Houston's offensive line is not ready for that. You saw how bad it was with Seattle. Denver's front is even better than Seattle's. They're leading the NFL in sacks. Even without Surtain, I don't think this game is going to be super noticeable because CJ is just going to be running for his life, man. The Commanders, Jaden Daniels. What do we say? Jaden is still, if he was out there, this team would potentially have a chance. But no Jaden Daniels. This defense is, you're starting Von Miller, Bobby Wagner, Marshawn Lattimore. In 2018, you're a top 5 unit. In 2025, you're just old. Vikings, do they trust their quarterback? Like any of them? Carson Wentz got hurt. They kept asking him to play. JJ was hurt. They kept him sidelined even longer. Now Wentz is having season-ending surgery. JJ is now suddenly healthy because Wentz is having season-ending surgery. I still like a lot about this team. Jefferson, Addison, the left tackle, the defense, like Brian Flores. You just don't have a quarterback at this point. You're not a playoff team, Minnesota. I like a lot about this team, though. Just not good enough at QB. Get good. The Patriots, I just want to see you beat somebody, man. I know, okay, you have the one win against the Bills. I'll give you that. But, like, as Drake May continues to play better, it continues to be against lesser competition. I know Cleveland's defense is good, but that offense is atrocious, and they were getting sent up really good field position all day. And that was with Myles Garrett just absolutely handing Will Campbell his ass. And that whole offensive line, in reality. 5 sacks. I think New England is good. I think they're going to be a playoff team. I just don't know if I can move them to great or excellent until I have a couple more quality wins under their belt. The Chargers, Again, I think the Chargers have a really good chance to move up and deserve to move up once they're actually healthy. Like once Derwin James is there, Khalil Mack's there and he's fully back healthy. Joe Alt's fully back healthy. Mekhi Becton. Like, I think this Chargers team has a chance to be in great once they're healthy. Until we know they're going to be healthy, I can't move them up. The Steelers have been here all year, and I'm not moving them. Look, they didn't look great against Green Bay, and their defense is struggling, giving up a lot of yards. But they're just going to be 8-1, 9-8, like some stupid record like that. I think they're just going to, if the Ravens don't catch them, they're just going to consistently be good enough to not be terrible. So I can't put them in the out or get lost category because I think they're just going to be slightly above those teams. The Bears are a good team. Caleb needs to play better, though. Caleb 1,000% needs to play better. You can't lose to the backup Tyler Huntley. You just can't. So the Bears' running game has been good. The defense has been forcing turnovers. I think Ben Johnson is scheming guys open. Caleb has to play better. I can't move them much higher until Caleb starts playing better. I can't quit the Ravens, man. As much as Tony gets mad at me for it, I just can't quit them. I think there is, if Lamar comes back, I think they're too good. If they're any resembling healthy, I think they're just too good. And the 49ers, again, they're similar both to the Chargers where they're really close to get great. And I'd actually be better than the Chargers. They are fully healthy. But the reality is they're not even close to healthy. They got cluster injuries everywhere. Kyle Shanahan would still be my early coach of the year candidate because he's got X amount of wins with Mac Jones, which I think is extremely impressive. But too many injuries here, man. Get great. The Bills are still a great team, guys. I know everybody wanted to write the downfall of the Bills, but here's the reality. Josh Allen is still Josh Allen. He still has the ability to go Superman. He still is the second best quarterback in the National Football League. What else was I need to say? The Buccaneers, I think, are a great team. I wish they were. Now, they did dominate the Saints, which if that game they went last minute with or last possession, I do think I would probably have moved them down potentially. But they showed when they're playing a below average team, a team clearly not as good as them, they can put their foot on their neck. Baker just doesn't like the Saints, apparently. That was an interview, the media session did last week, and he was like, I think they're trying to hurt people. I think they play dirty, et cetera, et cetera. So I was very glad they dominated that game. The Rams are really close to excellent. I think if Puka was healthy, I would have them in excellent. I do worry about a Devontae Adams-led receiving core. I do worry about I love Matthew Stafford, but I feel like there's been these clearly great games and there's been clearly games. Again, if Puka gets healthy, this defense is legit. Stafford and McVay I trust in the playoffs. This is one of the best teams in football. Now comes the two teams whose quarterbacks do we fully trust? That's all these teams are missing. Seattle might be the best team no one talks about. Seattle's great. But do we truly believe in Sam Darnold now 20 plus games into this? Do we truly believe he is the franchise quarterback that we were promised when the Jets drafted him third overall? And the Colts, I still have Daniel Jones bias. I can't lose it. The reality is he was bad for so long. Do I now think he is this guy where his offense is more prolific than they just dropped below yards per play from the 07 Patriots? He has scored more points than the Peyton Manning-led Colts team. I just think some of these things are going to start coming back down to the media, and I want to see what they end. But right now, definitively a great team. Get excellent. Eagles, Lions, Broncos, Packers. I think these are your four best rosters in the NFL. I think the Eagles, the Lions, the Broncos, and Packers are the four best rosters. Take defense, offensive line, receivers. These are the four best rosters. The Eagles probably have the best roster by it's a margin, but they probably have the best roster in the NFL. Again, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, that offensive line, while not as dominant as it was, still really good. Jalen Carter, Cooper DeJean, Zach Bond, that defense. They're 6-2. I know he wanted to write doom and gloom when they lost the back-to-back games, but they have found a way to steady the ship. They're playing great. Jalen Hurts has just incredibly efficient, not high volume, but incredibly efficient, securing himself the top 10 conversations, obviously, which were ridiculous. Still showing that, excuse me. Yeah, the top 10 conversation was ridiculous. Jalen Hurts is playing very well. The Lions, this might be the best offense when they're rolling. They're probably the worst team to be down against because when they're rolling, they're just going to steamroll you. Probably better than any team in the NFL. So defensively, I've got some concerns. I do think it is a little Aiden Hutchinson reliant, but then there's my Broncos, 6-2, first place in the AFC West. In my opinion, the second best defense in football, but the best defense in football is probably the Texans, and I don't think that's going to matter. You're going to see that on Sunday. This pass rush, I'm a little concerned, yes, Surtain being out obviously for a couple weeks, but they have depth at corner. Bronco fans, Riley Moss is fine. He's a good player. He's just not Pat Surtain. They're going to play a little bit more zone. They still get after the quarterback better than anybody. They have the highest sack differential in the NFL. Bo, the last 2 games, 8 touchdowns. Again, if it was any other of these second-year quarterbacks that had 8 touchdowns in a 2-game span, we would be singing their praises. He leads that entire class, touchdowns, yards, wins. This is a legitimate Super Bowl team, like Sean Payton said. The Packers I want to get to before the Chiefs. The Packers, if Jordan Love just can't make the mistake. And that's why I want to clarify these 4 rosters. Eagles, Lions, Broncos, Packers. Their quarterbacks are the most interesting parts of their team. They're probably the most interesting players in the NFL. Because if they're great on a given Sunday, those teams are unbeatable. If Jalen Hurts is great, you're not beating the Eagles. If Jared Goff is great, you're not beating the Lions. If Bo Nix is great, you're not beating the Broncos. And if Jordan Love is great, you're not beating the Packers. That then leads us to our 5th team in Kansas City. I don't think they're as great as everybody else has proclaimed them already. That being said, Mahomes, Reed, you cannot count them out, and they are probably the most dangerous in a one-on-one playoff game because they have the experience. In this top row, the only team that's even close is the Eagles. It's the best quarterback-coach combo. They would be the other team, in my opinion, that deserves to be a spot and get excellent. But I don't think their roster overall is as good as the other 4. I just don't. That is get good, get great, get out. 4 week 8 of the NFL Power Rankings. This is HardFoul Radio. We're back momentarily. And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. So to Colts fans and Tony, I know they're probably the best team not in Get Excellent. I'm aware of that. And yes, is it Daniel Jones bias? 1,000%. 1,000%. What I will say though, if they beat the Steelers, I don't think the Steelers are the measuring stick anymore, especially the way their defense has been playing. I'm probably not willing to put the Colts and Get Excellent until that Chiefs game. I just want to see how they look. They don't even have to beat the Chiefs. But if they look like they're competing with the Chiefs, that offense still works against Steve Spagnuolo's defense. Daniel Jones looks, again, doesn't have to look like how he's looked to this point, which just statistically, again, he's leading one of the greatest offenses in NFL history. I think the Colts are a really good offense, potentially a great offense. I just don't think they're the greatest offense that we've ever seen, which is where their current trajectory is. So I think that goes back to the means and becomes what I think they should be, which is a really good to great offense. How does this team still look? Right now, they have the best point differential. They're almost doubling up the second best team. Like they're in the 116 and the Patriots are second at 67. Again, it's why I don't have the Patriots super high, is I want to see how the Patriots look when they are playing these higher end echelon teams. I don't care if they're blowing out the Browns or they're beating up on the Titans. I want to see what it looks like when they are playing the best teams in the league. It is what it is, man. Going back to the NBA here for a second. And Victor Wembanyama is the shiny new toy on the street, and we're all sitting there in awe and amazement of what he's doing. Let's not, and along with Victor, Jokic is the consensus best player, and SGA is on the consensus best team and coming off a finals MVP, and what he's doing, free throws or not, we'll talk about that a later day. I don't love it either, but it's not the point of today. Let's please not lose the greatness of Giannis Antetokounmpo. Have you seen Giannis's stats? I'm not a hardcore sports bettor. You could just right now start picking the overs on Giannis, and if you would pick the overs to start the season, and he would just hit them all. And his overs are already insane. Like if you go on Prize Picks, his overs start at 40. And he's hitting them all. His start to the season, this is why my NBA playoff picks, which are probably going to be terrible again, because I'm going to watch this superhuman go 30 plus, damn near a triple-double, play all-world defense, and he's going to convince me the Bucks are a good team. And I know they're not. They might be worse than last year's Bucks. But he's superhuman. And I know Victor's the shiny new toy, and Jokic is the best player, and SGA is on the best team. But Giannis Antetokounmpo is the fucking man. There's really not even I don't have some grandiose, let me give you this cool narrative storyline. Wizards, Raptors, Cavs. The Wizards and Raptors, fine. Don't think they're that great. He went 37, 14, and 5 against the Wizards, 31, 20, and 7 against the Raptors. And the Cavaliers, who we know are a great team, he went 40, 14, and 9. Let me say that again. 40, 14, 9, 2 blocks, 2 steals. Think about that. And they're 2-1. This is not a great team. If you just go top to bottom, Giannis, Miles Turner, Cole Anthony, Kyle Kuzma, Kevin Porter, Gary Trent Jr., Bobby Portis, his brothers, Torian, like Giannis is doing this basically by himself. Can they win a title? Probably not. But you understand how great you have to be to have this team? And I'm like, I mean, probably not. This should be an easy answer. No, the Milwaukee Bucks cannot win a title. The Milwaukee Bucks are drawing dead in the playoffs. Except when you have one of the greatest players to ever live. I just can't say no definitively. I just can't. Giannis is the fucking man, guys. It is what it is. Maybe the most. Does anybody know why the Knicks really got rid of Tom Thibodeau? Because I don't think this Knicks team looks the same. Now, I know they had a good opening night win against the Cavs. I know they're playing more guys, and maybe the players are going to like that long term. But they just look off. I can't totally give you I can't give you some big breakdown of why I think they're going to be worse. They're 2-1, which is fine. But Tom Thibodeau, who maybe didn't give, and maybe this is just for the playoffs, because maybe he just felt like Tom Thibodeau, because he made you such a force in the regular season with tenacity, defense, everything that was going on. Excuse me. But the reality is, in my opinion, watching the Knicks, and this is supposed to be your year, because the Bucks aren't good, even though they got Giannis. The Cavs are good, but we haven't seen the playoffs yet. No Tyrese Halliburton, no Jason Tatum. Supposed to be your year. And maybe 3 games is an overreaction. And by definition, it obviously is. They're playing 82 games. 3 games is an overreaction. But I'm not sold on the Knicks yet. This version of them. I need to see something. And something about Mike Brown just does not scream playoff success head coach. And that's all you're there for. We don't need a great regular season head coach. Thibodeau was that. And you only got this year, because after this year, Halliburton's back, Tatum's back. The Sixers, forget Embiid, the Sixers just are going to be a threat again between Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe. Like, this is your 1 year. You got to do it. And it just don't look like it yet. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily. And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. So the Colts fans who probably don't like me very much. Here's something I do think is really cool about the Colts season. I believe, and I think this kind of says a lot about also how you really think about the Colts. I think Jonathan Taylor's a legit MVP candidate. I do. With Jonathan Taylor being a legit MVP candidate, part of that is there's no quarterback truly having like an all-time season. Like none of these guys right now are on pace for, high 40s and touchdowns or 5,000 yards or something that would make it clearly, obviously undisputed, can't take the MVP away from him. And the only team that right now is theoretically tracking towards 15, 16 wins is the Colts. So why is Jonathan Taylor in the MVP conversation and not his quarterback, Daniel Jones? Because in the back of our mind, we all know it's Daniel Jones. And he's having a great season and deserves credit for it. But the fact that it's Daniel Jones, and that's why we actually feel like Jonathan Taylor should be in the MVP conversation, because we feel and we know he's the best player on this offense. No, and to be fair, Saquon got some of this love last year. Should Saquon be the MVP or in the conversation because we knew he was better than Jalen Hurts last year? It is somewhat of a, if you're going to say the running back is MVP candidate material, a lot of that is saying then your quarterback is not MVP candidate material because they just basically make the MVP award a quarterback award. You know who didn't get MVP consideration, real MVP consideration last year? Derrick Henry. Even though he had basically 90 to 95% of the year Saquon had. You know why he didn't? Because look at who his quarterback is. When your quarterback is Lamar, Allen, Mahomes, historically, Breeze, even a guy like Phillip Rivers, who if he had a 40 touchdown season and his running back went for 2,000 yards, you know who they're giving MVP to? Phillip Rivers. Jonathan Taylor's having a great year. Jonathan Taylor is a great running back right now. Should probably be, if you play King of the Hill, like who's the best currently right at this moment, it should be Jonathan Taylor. And that's with, obviously, Christian McCaffrey has slowed down a little bit. Derrick Henry's not having the year. Saquon's not having the year. Jonathan Taylor being in the MVP conversation, as much as it is a reflection of how great he's playing, it is also a reflection of what we think and what we know about their quarterback. And that is, he's just okay. He's having a great season, but he's just okay. Does Shane Steichen deserve, let me be clear, does Daniel Jones deserve credit because he has rebounded? 1,000%. 1,000%. But the same way the Chiefs, we give the benefit of the doubt, the longest amount of benefit of the doubt, because they were the dynasty, and I am saying we're in past tense. That same kind of logic then applies to someone like Daniel Jones, who went years not playing well. And maybe it's just New York's the worst. Maybe both New York teams are just the worst franchises in the sport. Because Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones, maybe it's only New York's fault. I don't know, man. I love the story. I hope Jonathan Taylor gets real MVP consideration. I hope he has real votes, because I would love to see the MVP award not just be a QB award. I would love to see defensive players have a chance at it. I would love to see running backs, receivers like Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's almost on a 2,000-yard pace. Like Tyreek Hill kind of started to get conversation. Again, why did Tyreek Hill get conversation during his almost 2,000-yard season? Because we didn't believe in the quarterback. And Tua led the NFL in passing. The Dolphins are one of the best offenses in the league. And we just don't believe in the QB. HardFoul 10 at checkout. Don't forget, get you some W. Last thing football-wise I want to talk about. Patriots fans. We talked about this. Really, the whole quarterback class. I want to talk about this. Let me pivot for a second. I love this quarterback class. I don't think that gets said enough, talked about enough, and I don't know if that comes across correctly. Obviously, I like Caleb. I like Jaden. I like Drake. I like Michael Penix. I obviously like Bo. And JJ McCarthy at this point, we just have to wait and see. He just has not played enough. But I've said this multiple times. Every single one of those teams are happier with their quarterback situation now than they were 2 years ago. The Bears, despite Caleb doesn't need to play better, but the Bears are happier with Caleb than they were with any of the previous 10 quarterbacks. The Commanders, even though he's injured, are way happier with Jaden Daniels than any quarterback they've had since maybe RG3. Drake May. Come on now. It's Drake May and Mac Jones. Let's be honest. Bo Nix and the carousel that the Broncos had at quarterback. Penix, who the Falcons are so happy with the quarterback situation, they still have their former quarterback in the roster and paying him $40 million a year just to not play except if Penix is injured. JJ McCarthy, the Vikings like so much that they're willing to tell Carson, they're like, this is going to be an all-time class. Whoever you want to argue is the best, go for it. Again, I know who my argument is for the best, how I started off the show, because one guy leads them all in yards, leads them all in touchdowns, leads them all in wins, is going to be the only one to make the playoffs the first 2 years of his career. But if you say Drake May because he's peaking at the highest level, because you feel like he's in the MVP conversation, or you feel like Jaden Daniels played the best because he got to the NFC Championship game, or if you just truly believe Caleb's talent is still better than everybody and he is going to show out and that will play out over the long haul, so he's actually the best, think of how great that is for a quarterback class. We get bad quarterback play on a week in, week out basis in the NFL. The NBA is currently a better product than the NFL in terms of performance, what they provide on the court versus the field. But the NFL is the biggest product by a mile, and they give us some really bad quarterback plays, some really bad games, and we eat that shit up. So we should all, as fans of the sport, want better quarterback play. We just should. And you get that with Drake May in New England, Bo Nix in Denver, Penix in Atlanta, Caleb in Chicago, Jaden in Washington, and we'll see again what JJ does. Hopefully he gets back to being healthy. But this entire quarterback class, I'm a fan. The teams are a fan. And as fans of football, we should all be a fan and all be rooting for them. This is HardFoul Radio. How we're going to close out the show. Be back momentarily. And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. Time to close out today's episode. Again, we'll go back here to get good, get great, get out. Obviously, one of the mainstays of a Tuesday show. Probably, if I had to guess, the biggest outrage is probably going to be the Colts not being in Get Excellent. I know they're 7-1. I want to see how they play against the Chiefs. A lot of these teams. So here's the biggest thing I have to keep in mind. I think the Chiefs have a chance to lose 3 of their next 4. Let me make sure I got their schedule correct. I think it's 3 of their next 4. I think they could absolutely. Let's see here. I don't know if this is a hot take or not. So the Chiefs, their next games. So it looks like they got the Bills next week. And then it looks like they have their bye. So the 2nd. Then they don't play again until the 16th. Okay, so yeah. So they got Bills. Think that could be a loss. The Broncos. I think that could be a loss. And the Colts. So they just dead ass think could go on a 3-game losing streak. Not even 3 of the next 4. I think all 3 of those are applicable losses. Bills, Broncos, Colts. If the Chiefs were to lose 3 straight, are they still excellent? And if any of those teams win against the Chiefs, are they also now immediately excellent? I already have the Broncos in excellent. The Colts and Bills I have right on the cusp. If the Chiefs lose 3 straight, Bills, Broncos, Colts, are they still an excellent team? Because I would take their record. They're currently 5-3, right? Let's see here, Chiefs 5-3, yeah. So what do we do with the Kansas City Chiefs? If they're 5-3, lose 3 straight, and they end up 5-6, that's gonna be the next question in the NFL season. The Chiefs are probably about to play their 3 toughest game stretch of the season. Toughest 3-game stretch. Because that is team they always lose to in the regular season. In my opinion, one of the best 2 defenses in the NFL, and a team that knows them very well in the Broncos. And the Colts, who have been, if we're isolating just this season, the best team in football. I would jump for joy at a 5-6 Chiefs. But I'm just a hater. I am. This has been another episode of HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Don't forget, appreciate to Dubby for sponsoring today's episode. Use HardFoul10 at checkout. Get you 10% off. Appreciate everybody for coming through as always, and I will see you guys tomorrow. We out.